My name's Marcus Hale. I've loved cars since I could barely reach the pedals on a big wheel. Blame my grandfather, Henry, an old-school mechanic who could make a junkyard dog of an engine purr. Every Saturday, we lived in his garage. Black, coffee, classic rock, chrome, and the language of torque. Under a dusted tarp sat his crown jewel, a midnight blue 71 Jaguar E-Type. When he fired that straight six, the air changed. At 7 years old, I made a private vow. One day I'd own that car, or the closest thing to it, and I'd earn it. My parents thought it was a phase. It wasn't. After college, I lived like a monk on a finance analyst's salary. Same 5 shirts, ramen for dinner, a Honda that sounded like a blender full of bolts. Every spare dollar went to a savings account shamelessly labeled Jag Fund. 7 years later, I found her. A fully restored, numbers-matching 71 E-Type, midnight blue with tan leather, triple SU carbs, a 5-speed swap, receipts thicker than a phone book. 92 grand. I wired everything I had and hauled her home like a pilgrim returning with a relic. Driving it felt like touching a promise I'd made to a kid version of me and to my grandfather's grease-stained hands. That car became my ritual. I cleaned chrome that was already perfect, tuned a perfectly tuned idle, and listened to the engine the way other people listen to vinyl. My wife, Laura, humored it, mostly. To her, things were things. Handbags rotated monthly, apartments, redecorated seasonally, cars leased biannually. The Jag? It's just a vehicle, she'd say with a smile that didn't quite hide the eye roll. Then there was her sister, Chloe, 25, allergic to consequences, a Birkin in one hand and an open Venmo request in the other. In the Davidson household, enabling was called support. Work changed everything. "How's your Japanese?" my boss asked, which is corporate for "you're getting on a plane." 3 weeks in Tokyo to land a deal big enough to move my title and my tax bracket. I said yes before the sentence ended, then immediately thought about car theft. Our neighborhood had been targeted lately. Laura suggested her parents' place, suburban fortress, spotless 2-car garage. Not a bad idea, but my anxiety was louder than reason. That's when my best friend Adam, the only person as car-brained as me, floated a ridiculous plan that felt perfect the second he said it. Adam owned an E-Type replica, midnight blue, tan leather, visually indistinguishable from mine unless you knew where to look. We'd swap. My real Jag would hibernate in his climate-controlled, camera-soaked lair. His replica would sit in my in-laws' garage as tempting decoy. If anyone targeted my collector car, they'd be stealing an expensive copy, not my irreplaceable history. We did the switch under our parking garage fluorescence, shook hands like it was a heist, and I delivered the replica to Laura's parents with a list of instructions for her dad. Start it weekly. Don't drive it. Call me if a gauge twitches. Tokyo was everything you hope a career leap will be. Late dinners, early meetings, ritual politeness wrapping razor-sharp negotiations. We closed the deal. My boss sounded proud, but the whole flight home, all I wanted was a shower, a sleep, and a slow drive in my car. Laura met me in her parents' driveway wearing a smile that didn't match the garage behind her, empty and echoing. "Where's the car?" I asked. She glanced at her phone, bright with photos. "Funny story. Chloe met a guy with a yacht. She needed to arrive in style." Swipe, Chloe on a dock with a flute of champagne and the replica gleaming beside her. "So she sold it, 50,000. Can you believe someone paid that much for an old car?" I should have exploded. Instead, I laughed, out loud, belly deep. Laura's smile faltered. "What's so funny?" "Because the car you sold," I said, "wasn't mine." Color drained from her face. I explained the swap. The car she'd helped move wasn't a 6-figure classic. It was Adam's 30-grand replica. And she'd co-signed a title transfer she had no right to sign. Fraud, forgery, interstate wire transfer. The legal bingo card was filling itself. Right then, Adam rolled up with my real Jag on a trailer, polished and perfect, our cavalry in chrome. He climbed down, eyes cold. "Let me get this straight," he said to Laura. "You okayed your sister selling my car to fund a vacation?" Laura's parents hustled out. Within minutes, we were in their immaculate living room conducting what felt like a family tribunal. Adam laid out the facts like a prosecutor. I stayed quiet and watched entitlement meet gravity. We called the buyer, Peter Donovan of Indiana, collector and, inconveniently, a fraud attorney. Adam had already told him the truth. Peter wanted his $50,000 back plus $5,000 for the trouble and notarized apologies from everyone involved. 10 days, no haggling. Missed the deadline and he'd go federal. Chloe joined by speakerphone from Greece, mid-sob and mid-denial. "It was an honest mistake," she kept saying. Adam explained, gently as a sledgehammer, that ignorance isn't a defense when you forge authorization, misrepresent an asset, and accept wired funds across state lines. Wire fraud doesn't care if you're bad at details. It cares that you lied. The next week was a highlight reel of consequences. Laura's dad scrambled a home equity loan for $40,000. Chloe sold the luxury she'd Instagrammed, handbags, jewelry, dignity, and begged the rest from friends with creative fictions, unexpected medical bills. She came up with $15,000 and learned what interest looks like when it isn't printed on a credit card ad. On day 10, we called Peter. Funds received. Adam slid across apology statements he'd drafted with surgical cruelty. I, Laura Davidson Hale, unlawfully authorized the sale of property that did not belong to me, forged documents without the owner's consent, and aided in fraud. I understand I am avoiding criminal prosecution only by the buyer's grace. I, Chloe Davidson, misrepresented the nature and value of the vehicle I sold and used the proceeds for personal expenses. My actions constitute multiple felonies. They signed, hands shaking. The notary witnessed in mortified silence. Peter closed the matter with one last warning. Any future contact, and the FBI gets copies. It should have felt like victory. It felt like clarity. Laura went quiet for a while. Then one night she set down her wine and said the words I'd been waiting for since the driveway. "I was wrong. I should have called you. I treated the car like stuff. It's not stuff to you, I'm sorry." "It wasn't even my car," I said. "That's the point," she answered. "I made a decision about your property, your boundary, without you. That's not a marriage." Chloe moved back in with her parents and, for the first time in her life, worked 2 jobs. She learned to say thank you and I can't afford it. I didn't enjoy her struggle, but I appreciated the math lesson it taught. A few months later, Adam and I parked the replica and the real thing side by side at a classic show downtown. People circled, squinted, argued, and guessed wrong. Adam grinned. If Chloe had asked, I would have lent her the replica for photos. It was the lying that cost her. Later at dinner, Laura asked the question that had been circling us since Tokyo. If it had actually been your Jag, if it was gone, would we have made it? I weighed it. The car is steel and leather, sure. But it's also every Saturday with my grandfather, 7 years of self-denial, a promise kept to a younger self. Honestly, I would have pressed charges and filed for divorce. She nodded. No drama, just acceptance. Then I'm grateful for replicas. So am I. But I'm more grateful for lines in the sand. People can call it obsession. I call it stewardship. Protect the things that hold your history. Make the rules clear. And if someone, anyone, treats what matters to you like it's disposable, believe them the first time. I still take the E-Type out on Sunday mornings. As the straight 6 climbs through the gears, I hear my grandfather, "Cars talk if you listen. So do people, and so do boundaries."